We're Dave and Melinda, and we'd like to invite you to Black Rattle Life. As we're out for our walk, we're walking on an old stagecoach road that was abandoned, ran for a lot of years ago when people came to northern Queens to look for gold. That might be a good place to bring a gold pan out to try to find some gold. Got to find some way to pay for the house. So this is going to be an intro to how to build a house. And if you were going to write a book back in school, they told us that the things you had to ask, the 5 questions, were the who, what, when, where, and why. For building the house, I'm going to change that up a little bit. It's going to be why, where, what, when, and who. And those questions, when you answer them, will make it easier to make through the process of building a house. When you think about the questions, you may think about why. Why would somebody want to build a house? Well, it's fairly obvious that people want a house for shelter. But the more times you talk to people, the more answers you get. Some people want their privacy. Some want to get out on their own. They want room for their kids. They've empty nesters. Their kids have moved out. They want to change their memories. Or people like us who are seniors and we were living in an older place. We didn't want to keep up with the maintenance. So we wanted a new home that was small, easy to care for in our later years to keep us in our home longer. So for as many people as there are probably those reasons. And you have to answer those questions for yourself. The next question is where you want to build. Where is important because every area has its own rules and regulations. Rural areas have less restrictive bylaws, restrictive covenants. Urban areas have more restrictive covenants, but also in rural areas, you'll probably need a well or a septic system or looking for a way to treat your water if you get it from a lake. In an urban setting or a suburban setting, there's quite often municipal services to come to your house, and that can lower the cost. So a well and a septic is higher than connecting to municipal services. You also want to look at, do you want to be on the waterfront or do you want to be on an inland lot? Waterfront lots are much more expensive, but they give you great views. Inland lots are generally larger and more space for septic and things like that, so it's easier to position things. An east-facing view gives you a beautiful sunrises. We're morning people, so we wanted a sunrise lot. Western exposure gives you a sunset lot, obviously. Southern lot gives you more solar exposure. Out here, though, the predominant strong winds are westerly. So if you have a west-facing lot, you're going to put up with a lot more wind, and it's going to complicate things like putting up drywall, putting up plywood, and roofing materials because the wind is going to get a hold of it. So if you're not experienced, the extra wind can be quite a factor. When you come to the what you want to build, that's the next question, is what is very important because a smaller house is much less complicated, a lot lower cost. A larger house, is obviously much more complicated and a much higher cost. And on top of that, if you go for a larger house that's 2-story, then you're adding into the factor of complications of staging and working off ladders and higher. And the safety risk is much higher working off the ground, especially for somebody who's a newbie to construction. When you're deciding what you want to build, you have to be realistic about how big a house you want, how much you can live with. We went with 650 square feet, which for 2 people is still a small house. It's not a tiny house, but it's considered a small house. We also added a 400 square foot deck, which is all undercover, and we designed it so that the deck can be closed in if we need an extra room. If we made a mistake and we don't have to build on, we can just build walls and insulate the floors, and we can build the extra space we want. So we have roughly 1,050 square feet undercover, which is the size of a small bungalow. So if you went with a 1,000 square foot bungalow with 3 bedrooms, your costs would not be significantly different than what we're looking at in our example. The what portion of your build is also where you'll be working with an architect or a draftsman. But you can save yourself a lot of time and effort by having your floor plan. Just do a rough floor plan out on paper of what you want, where you want it, and then your draftsman will make sure that everything aligns up with code, everything is where you need it. He or she will show you things that you probably missed. The when of building is, it's like the old saying about a tree. The best place to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. It's the same for a house. But, you have to be ready. You have to have your financing in place. And even when you're ready to build a house, when you decided you're going to pull the trigger, you're still probably 3 to 4 months away from driving your first nail, which is kind of frustrating for most people. But there's the design phase. You may not be able to get a designer. You may not be able to get materials. Your permits are going to take time. And it's like a puzzle. Everything has to go together. It's like dominoes. Each one has to fall to knock the next one in so that you can actually build your house. Then we're down to the last question, which, because you're here watching, I'm assuming the who is going to be you. And I'm really glad that you have stayed this long to answer that question. And I'm hoping that, we can take things on, get you to the build. If you like what I said, please hit the like button and subscribe. And you can also hit the bell icon to be notified of any upcoming videos. Because as we go forward now, we're going to be getting into the actual nuts and bolts of the permitting process, the design, the planning, and the actual construction. It takes a long time to build a house before you actually drive nails. And I want to give you a realistic approach of what that's going to look like from our point of view. We'd like to thank you for joining us as we describe our black rattle life. Have a good day, and we'll see you later. Here comes the beaver through the water. It's swimming by. It was overfishing in the reeds or picking up roots. So yesterday while I was filming, I made a newbie mistake and tried to use some technology, and it screwed up. So instead of doing my intro videos, I ended up with a whole bunch of times of me thinking about what I was going to say in between. Not riveting, I can tell you. Okay. That didn't sound good. I didn't like that one. Yeah. No. So here comes the beaver through the woods, or through the